And we're going to look at a topic this week that's called slope. You all have probably heard the word slope before, and it does have to do with some things that you've heard before that you hear the word slope. I believe there's a game that everybody likes to play now called Slope, where the ball is rolling down. So what slope is, I guess just in a real world sense, not only mathematically, is like a roof. You know how a roof is sloped? It's like sloped downwards. That is what a slope is. It's going up or down. It's some kind of increase or decrease. And so you think about every line that we graph has a slope because it's going up or it's going down. So the slope is a number. The slope is a number. And so it's a rate of change, and we write it as a fraction between any 2 points on a line. And the thing about slope, we kind of talked about it last week, is if it is a straight line, a linear relationship, the slope is always the same no matter what 2 points you're finding the distance between. In other words, it's the constant rate of change, or it is the unit rate of a graph. And I want you to also get down these two fractions here, because that is how we find the slope. Those are the two things that we use or think about to help us find the slope. Okay, so by the end of this week, we're going to have 4 names that we could call a unit rate. A unit rate, last week, remember we talked about the constant of proportionality, and we always just said it's the unit rate. Well, that's the second one. The third one is the slope. Now, slope is only used when we're talking about a line. Okay, everything that is a line has slope. The way that we find, and the fourth one we'll talk about tomorrow. The way that we find slope, a lot of times the way that's used, the words that are used, is rise over run. Think about it. If you are rising, what direction are you going? Up, and I guess technically we'll have to say down as well. It's up or down. So rise would be how much are we changing up or down to go from one point to the next on a line. And then if you are running, what direction are you going? Left or right, side to side. So how much are we changing left or right to get from one point to another? What direction does the y-axis go? Up and down, right? Change in y, up and down. And the x-axis goes left or right, change in x. And so we're seeing how many times do we change in the y direction and how many times do we change in the x direction to get from one point to the next. So we've got a line like this. We pick any 2 points. It doesn't matter what 2 points we pick because it's always going to be the same. That's what's true about a linear relationship. And so we say, okay, how much are we changing up? How much are we changing over? Rise and run. We write those two as an improper fraction. So one other thing I want you to get down is do not write the slope. So do not write this as a decimal or a mixed number. So do not write the slope as a decimal or a mixed number. We always write slope as an improper fraction. Because if we make it into a decimal like 1.5, we don't know how much is going up and how much is going to the right. If we write it as like 2 1/3, once again, we want to see one number on top and one number on bottom. So if we get 7/3, keep it as 7/3. So that for slope, you don't simplify. You just keep it as, don't make it a mixed number, don't make it a decimal, keep it as an improper fraction. And so today, a lot of what we're going to do today is looking at lines. We might have to graph them, but we're just going to look at lines and then count out the slope. And then on Wednesday of this week, we're going to actually use the slope to graph lines. Those are the two things you got to do in 7th grade with slope. Understand what it is and how to find it, and then graph a line using the slope. So thinking about proportional relationships and dealing with slope. Every linear relationship, linear means what does it make? A straight line. So every relationship that makes a straight line has a slope, which means every proportional relationship has a slope. And remember, we said slope is really the unit rate. The slope is the steepness of the line. We talked about steepness last week a little bit. But what it is, it's a ratio. That's why we can say it's the unit rate, because it's a rate or a ratio that shows the change between the y-coordinates and the x-coordinates. In other words, it's kind of like how far away is one point from the next. That's what we're wondering. And remember, somebody tell us, what is steepness? If something's really steep, what does that mean? It's dropping. Let's think about it going up. What does that mean? Yeah, it's a really tall incline, right? So a graph or a line that has a big slope like 8 or 10, it's going to be steeper than a line that has a slope of 1/2, because 8 is bigger than 1/2. So the bigger the slope is, the steeper the line is. Okay, can anyone think of something outside of a line that has slope? That slope is just an incline. A mountain has slope, yes. A roof has slope. Why does a roof have a slope? Anybody know why? So the rain or snow can come down, yeah. Ever notice a road? Is a road completely flat?
Yeah, some roads.
Some roads, and they're not very well built if they're completely flat, because a road should kind of slope downward, right? Because then the water doesn't build up on the road, it all drains off. And so there's a lot of things that we see, and we're going to actually talk about that on Thursday. We're going to look at some things around the school that have a slope. And so there's a lot of things in real life that have a slope, not just lines. So to find the slope, and this is what we're going to focus on today. We're going to find, if they don't give us 2 points on a line, we've got to find 2 points on the line. And what we're going to do is find the difference. Difference means what operation are we doing? Subtraction. So we're going to subtract the 2 y values and then subtract the 2 x values. And write that as a fraction, as a ratio. This third point, the coordinates of the point higher on the line usually come first. And then we might need to simplify, but remember, we don't want to turn it into a mixed number. So we can simplify, but don't turn it into a mixed number. Biggest thing with slope to remember is slope is y over x. So a coordinate on a graph is x comma y. It's the opposite for slope. Slope is y over x. So remember, it's y on top. Rise over run. Okay? So on these, we're going to have to graph the line first, get some practice with graphing, and then we will find the slope. So notice So it says, the number of seconds it takes to hear thunder after a lightning strike, and X is the miles you are from the lightning. So they already tell us what X and what Y are. X is miles and Y is lightning. I don't have room on my graph, but what should we do with the X and Y axis first? Label them, so make sure that you put miles on the X-axis and seconds on the Y-axis. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to go up all the way to 25 on the Y-axis, so what could we do to make sure we fit all our points on there? Well, let's go up by 5s, so every line on the Y-axis, we'll make that 5. And then we're going to graph our points. So at 0, we're at 0. 1 second, we're at 5 miles. 2, 10. 3, 15. 4, 20. 5, 25. And one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an arrow at the end of that line just to show that it doesn't stop there. We could keep going, but we don't have that information. And on Wednesday we're going to get a lot of practice drawing our lines like this. So that's graphing, and then we've got to find the slope. So remember, slope is y over x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose 2 points on the graph. 2 points on the graph. And it doesn't matter what 2 points they are, because it's always going to simplify to get me the same thing. So let's say I choose just these first 2. So I choose 1, 5, and 2, 10. Remember, the y values come first. And we said in the last slide, the point that is higher up on the line, that comes first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 210, because 210 is higher up on the line than 15. And I'm going to do 10 minus 5. I'm subtracting the 2 y values. So not 10 minus 2, 10 minus 5. Because all the y values go on top. That's going to go over. I've got 1 and 2. What order should I go in for the x values? 2 minus 1. Because 10 goes with 2 and 5 goes with 1. So 10 minus 5 over 2 minus 1. Then subtract them. And that's going to get us 5 over 1. Or you could also write that as 5. And the slope is just a number. So you don't have to put units with it. You just put 5 for 5 over 1. So what we are saying is to go from one point to the next, we're going to go up 5 and right 1. Up 5 and right 1. Up 5 and right 1. And that's what we did. We went up by 5s on the y-axis, and we went to the right by 1 on the x-axis. So that's what the slope is. We're saying we're going up 5 and over 1, and that's it. Okay, so let's look at another one together. So we've got weeks and plant height, and the graph is given to us, so mine looks a little different than yours. Time, or weeks, is going to be the x-axis. Plant height is the y-axis. And we can just go up by 1s for all of these. So let's go ahead and graph our data first. So at 1 week, we're at 1.5 centimeters, so right in between 1 and 2. 2 weeks, we are at 3 centimeters. 3 weeks, we're at 4.5. And at 4 weeks, we're at 6. From there, we want the line going through these points. And if it has a slope, it should be a straight line. If you don't get a straight line, you want to check and make sure you graphed everything correctly. All right, any questions on the graphing part? I think we're good on that. You guys did well last week with it. To find the slope, once again, remember it's change in y over change in x. Y over x. So pick 2 points. What 2 points could we pick on this one? Might make our subtraction a little easier. 2, 3, and 4, 6. Yeah, let's use those two. Because it's still going to be the same thing. So remember, the number that is higher up on the line comes first. So our y value is plant height, which means 6 is going to come first, minus 3. 6 minus 3. Subtract the two y values. So then how should we subtract the two x values? What should come first? If 6 came first here, 4 needs to come first for the x. 4 minus 2. 6 and 4 go together. 3 and 2 go together. And then subtract. That's going to get us 3 over 2. We can't simplify that. And remember we said we do not want to write it as a mixed number. Don't make that 1.5. Just keep it as 3 over 2. Because that tells us to get from one point to the next, we'd be going up 3 and right 2. We go from one point to the next, we're going to go up 3 and right 2. So the biggest thing with slope is to remember it's y over x. Change in y, subtract the y values over change in x. Subtract the x values. Okay, any questions so far? All right, I want you all to do the next two then. So graph the points and then use the y over x to find the slope. For that first one, you've got hours and money earned. Which one would be x? Hours would be x and money earned would be y. Okay, so go ahead and graph that and find the slope for the next two. Remember, to find the slope, you just pick any 2 points on that graph. And you subtract the two y values, subtract the two x values. So you can pick either any 2 points that you want. Okay, so on this first one, it doesn't really matter how the line looks, but make sure that it's a straight line, make sure that you graph the points correctly. I want to focus more on the slope. So the y values are amount earned. So 45, 90, 135. Those are the numbers that you're going to put on the top. And like I said, it doesn't matter what two numbers you pick to subtract. I'm going to do 90 minus 45. But if you pick two other numbers, as you notice, you should still get the same thing. So x, 90, goes with 6. So 6 is going to come here. 45 and 3 are in the same point. So that's how I choose my points. The x values that go with the y values that I chose. So when I subtract, I get 45 over 3. If you got 3 over 45, you did x over y. Remember, slope is y over x. Y over x. Can I simplify 45 over 3? What can I divide both of them by? Divide both of them by 3. That's going to get us 15 over 1, or just 15. So make sure that you simplify, and that means we're going up 15 and right 1 to get from one point to the next. So the slope there is 15 over 1, or 15. So any questions on this one? All right, so let's look at the next one as well. So this time, they don't give us a table, which means we've got to create our own points. Okay, so I want to find the slope first. Find the slope first. Just to prove that we don't have to graph the line to find the slope. So what are the two things that we're comparing in this? What two units make up this relationship? Vincent? Sorry, the one before that.
No, weeks and then money.
Okay, so weeks and money, right? So we've got weeks and we've got money. So after 1 week, how much money? 300. After 2 weeks, 600. And think about it, to find the slope, do we need more than 2 points? We just need 2 points, right? So that's all that we need. We just need 2 points. Second thing, figure out what's x and what's y. What's x? Weeks is x, money is y. So to find the slope, we're going to do y over x. Y over x. So we pick the two y values, and we're going to do 600 minus 300. And then at the bottom, it'll be the two x values, which will be 2 minus 1. Subtract those, we get 300 over 1, or just 300. And so to graph it, let's say we went up on the y-axis 100. Every line was 100. It would look like this. And then we could connect it. But did we need the graph in order to find the slope? No, you can find the slope as long as you have 2 points. You don't need to look at the graph. You don't need to graph it. You can just find the slope by subtracting those 2 points. Okay? Biggest thing to remember though, y over x is slope. Y over x is slope. All right, so our last one. We'll look at this one together. So Nina drains a 20-gallon aquarium at the rate of half a gallon per minute. Okay, so we've got to figure out the same thing that we just did. We've got gallons and we've got minutes. Which one would be x? Usually time is what? X. So minutes would be x, gallons would be y. At 0 minutes, before she has started draining this, how many gallons are in the aquarium? 20. After 1 minute, how many gallons? Think about draining means what? Taking out. So half a gallon in 1 minute, take away half a gallon. 19.5, right? So after 2 minutes, we're at 19 gallons. After 4 minutes, we're at 18 gallons. Every 2 minutes, 1 gallon is being taken away. So let's graph this first. Let's graph it first. So the y-axis is gallons. Are we starting at 0, 0? At 0 for x, what are we at for y? 20. So let's say I went up by 2. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. 20 right here. 0 and 20. After 1 minute, I went down half a gallon. So I'll say after 2 minutes, so 1 minute, 2 minutes, we went down to 19. After 4 minutes, we're at 18. So what direction is our line going to be going? It's going to be going down. Every other time so far, it's been going up, right? So first thing, would this be proportional? Because it doesn't go through the origin. So our line's going to look like this. I want to show you something about slope. It has to do with that. So our line's going down. So let's pick those 2 points on the graph. What 2 points do you think would make our subtraction easier?
1 and 2.
1 and 2? All right. I actually think 2 and 4. Because there's no 0.5s in the 2 and 4. So let's do 2 and 4. So let's pick those 2 points. Okay, so the y value would be 19 minus 18. And what's the x's, how are they going to be ordered? What x value goes with 19? 2 minus 4. Anybody see what might happen?
Negative.
Yeah. If we subtract this, we get 1 over negative 2. In other words, it's negative 1/2. Why do you think the slope is negative on this line? Because it's going down. Yep. If the line is going down, the slope is negative. If it's going up, the slope is positive, but if it's going down, it's negative. Yep. So any questions about that? All right, so some practice on graphing and using the graph to find the slope, but remember, you can find the slope if you just have 2 points on the line. And so y over x, subtract those two values, and you get your slope.